Since I'm actually moderating this next session, I'm going to keep this introduction short. We all know the industry is going through massive disruption. Dana teed up a lot of the context for what's really driving the innovation today. And when we started planning this year's Grow Commerce, some of the questions we kept getting are, what's next in retail? Where do we place our bets? Retailers want to get ahead of their game, right? They want to know where to spend their time and their money. That's why they come to conferences like this one. So the goal of this session is to really help you discern the most important industry trends for future investment. The executives on the panel are investors, they run retail accelerators, and they run retail innovation labs. So they see things before anyone else. So with that, I'm going to ask the panelists if you can come up to the stage.
So I'm going to start. I think Dana kind of gave us some really good context in the beginning, really sharing some of the things the industry is going through first. So I want to just briefly have each of you introduce yourselves and your company just for folks who are not familiar, and then we'll dive right into the questions. John, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm John Nordmark, and I run Iterate.ai, which is an extension of retail innovation labs for about 15 different large companies.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm VP of Platform at Forerunner Ventures. We are a VC firm who invests in early stage commerce companies. Some of our noted companies that everyone in this room is probably familiar with are Warby Parker, Glossier, Bonobos, Draper James, hi Catherine, and a number of B2B companies as well, including Reachify, and a number of others.
Pano?
And my name is Pano Anthos. I run an accelerator focused on retail and consumer goods. We're about a little more than 18 months old, have already funded about 37 companies, ranging from some consumer goods plays and a lot of retail tech. We've got big sponsors and big partners in Accenture and Parsons School of Design and TJX and a bunch of others.
Awesome. So I'm going to skip a couple questions because I think Dana covered it, and we're going to try to condense some of the time. And I want to start with one of the rapid fire questions, which is, if a retailer was to invest in technology today, what is one technology that you would recommend that they invest in today, leaving this conference? Pano, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll expose a bias. One of our companies is called FindMine, and they complete the look, and they've typically increased revenue by 6 to 7% top line within a month of implementation. These are big companies that are getting that benefit. So low cost of implementation, very quick, and very high returns.
Melissa.
I would say anything that allows your e-commerce site to be payment agnostic, and some of the companies that come to mind are Stripe and Braintree. They really allow for a frictionless checkout, which obviously for commerce is super important. We're always looking for ways to make user experience really easy and allow people, customers, to really take control of how they pay and how they control their experience.
We base everything kind of on ROI because we do it on behalf of the large company and across many companies. And I'll give you four because I said I don't have one, and I think it's more about a process. But one would be Yoda, another one SmartGift, another one Link Global, another one QM Scientific. They're all great companies.
So lots of shopping after Grow Commerce. Shopping for technology, as Dana told us, that's where we're placing our bets. So let's talk about kind of investment. You know, Pano, you're investing through XRC Labs and Melissa through Forerunner. What are some of the technologies and trends that you're basing your investment thesis on? And then conversely, what do you think is overhyped or has jumped the shark at this point?
It's probably easier to talk jump the shark first. I mean, I think anything that you hear too much about is jump the shark. I hate to say it, but Facebook Messenger is a terrible platform to communicate with your consumer. So don't do it. Sorry, Mark. But it's just, and Stan actually is a good friend of mine who runs it. So I would say that. Then I think that, second part of the question, I'm sorry, I lost track once.
What are some of the trends that you're investing in?
So we look at 5 to 6 trends. Store to consumer, anything that brings the store to the consumer, not the other way around. Store as platform, so marketplace technologies and capabilities that extend your brand beyond your brand. Store as experience, and there's lots of examples of that. Store as plant, as manufacturing plant. We're investing a lot in the 3D knitting space, 3D printing space. And then scarcity is the new inventory. So we look at anything that's going to help tighten the supply chain, simplify it, localize it as being very valuable and interesting to invest in.
Interesting. So both kind of front of the house and back of the house technologies. Melissa, how does that change for you guys at Forerunner?
I think at Forerunner, we have a really, really clear thesis of what we invest in. It's really not trend-driven. It's really driven by the evolution of commerce in general. And so what is next in the space and what is going to really drive us into the future of commerce. And some of our most recent investment is Package, and it's essentially a set of apps, video apps that allow you to shop directly from those apps based on YouTube influencers in general, and basically unboxing in front of the viewers. And I think it instills a sense of confidence, and it really, looks at shopping and serves shopping up in a new way to viewers. So that's something we're really excited about. And in terms of some themes we're always looking at, similar to you guys, how to improve, how to increase or decrease time to market. So whether that means bots, making things a little faster than they have been traditionally, or localizing distribution, supply chain efficiencies, things like that are really interesting to us as well. International is super interesting. We invested in a company called Flow that allows for us e-commerce sites to really expand internationally and globally in a much less with much less friction that they've been able to do in the past. So we think international is a huge opportunity as well for our brands.
Yeah, and one of the things that I kind of heard as a theme between the two of you, and it echoes what Dana said, where like amazing is the new normal. It's like all of these time to market's compressing. So you need things like bots, you need things like 3D knitting to help get the products to consumers faster and help personalize that experience. John, you spend a lot of time with retailers, and there's a lot of cool solutions in market, but what do you see? First of all, what are retailers looking for? But also, are there gaps in the service offering that maybe some of the technology companies here should be looking to fill?
What we're hearing so much about is just cultural transformation, which might not be a technology, but to me, every startup or every technology is it's a product, and it's an important product, but it's a piece of an ecosystem where, number one thing every large company needs today, if you're trying to compete with an Amazon or a company like that, you have to have a great culture that's able to change fast, move at this new speed, is open to ideas, and is highly experimental, that a lot of the new companies are. And so the culture is really, really important. And then what they're trying to do is put a process in place that, so if there are technologies out there that help with this, we're actually working on those ourselves, microservices type products that make integrations into legacy stacks a lot easier. Those are important. So process that facilitates a great culture of, that moves quickly. And then finally, we're seeing that, again and again, all large companies seem to want to connect with startups at a rate that we've never, at first we were trying to push this, and now it's more like we get calls, how can we connect with many, many startups even at the same time? And the best cultures that we're seeing in big companies are ones that are running as many as 10 experiments at a time, connecting with 10 startups through us at a time. And that's the reality both in Europe and the United States. So.
Yeah, and Pano, you probably see some of the same in terms of, all of the large retailers that end up sponsoring XRC Labs.
Yeah, but we warn them that it's not the shiny object that's going to change their business. We're pretty careful about that. I agree with John that we spend as much time on culture change as we do on technology. The technology piece is the easy piece, honestly. Critical systems infrastructure issues, a willingness to fail. Most of these retailers have no failure mechanism. They don't support it. They don't embrace it. They don't provide management objectives by it. So that's the kind of the big critical issue we see missing, because if you're not willing to fail, then you can't test. It's really simple. And most retailers are not willing to fail still.
That's actually a great insight, because if you're doing a lot of experiments, the reality is only a small percent of them are going to succeed. So if you're not testing, I mean, Amazon runs, I don't know, maybe one of you guys know, how many experiments does Amazon run? You know this one.
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's like 1,976 per year running through something called Web Lab, which is just the incremental little innovations that, like point solution startup technologies running through the system every year. That's 3 years ago. Yeah. And this was accelerating at, almost 50, 60% a year.
Yeah. So 1,000 experiments, and I think the challenge that you put out was run 10. Yeah. Yeah. Big gap there. Awesome. So now, let's look 5 years ahead. What are some technologies that retailers should be investing in over the next 5 years? And Melissa, would you mind starting this one?
Sure. I think data is huge. Data-driven personalization is something that has been talked about a lot today. And I think that's really the future of a lot of commerce companies out there. I think a merchant-driven approach has worked in the past. I think it's kind of shifting over to a data-driven approach. We recently, this week, the article on Stitch Fix came out where, they have a team that basically, I think it's 80 data scientists that really determine what products are going to go to market, along with their designers, of course, but it's really driven by data rather than, merchants, which is a big change in the past, and it seems to be working for them, obviously. With a number of our brands, we do the same thing, Rockets of Awesome, even Glossier, really listening to the customers and the data, and that determines what goes to market first and even what products are created. I only see that growing in the future.
Pano, what would you say?
I'm a huge fan of visual search, because I think that products are visual, they're not descriptive. It's really hard to type into text, I want a, blah, 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 blah. It's just hard to do. So to be able to and computer vision's come a long way. There's still a huge issue with taxonomies and the ability to understand what that image is really saying. But that's going to replace text search on every website within 5 years.
John, what do you think? What else do we have to add?
I agree. Data, huge. Everyone has to understand data like never before, but then we're seeing a lot of action in AI. And, that's the automation, a lot of times, of data. Many of the companies we're having success with on the startup side are AI-based, machine learning or deep learning. And then I think last mile is going to be critical. How fast you can get things to people is going to be out of control here soon. Last thing, I guess, that I just thought of now is I think services component being brought into retailers. We're getting asked a lot about that. How do we add services?
What do you mean by services?
Oh gosh, I mean, one of the best companies that's already got a hugely established service business is Ulta with their hair care, manicures. Then you have Kingfisher over in the UK, which is a DIY, 5 or 6 different brands like Home Depot here. Where they're trying to figure out how to provide services along a customer journey, where they've got many, many decision points, and who can they bring in as third-party advisors or whatever, whether they're plumbers or whoever, to help provide services on the fly through technologies. And eBags, my old company, one that I founded way back, bringing in luggage tags that are connectable to the airlines, or so they don't lose your bags, or can provide extra information, or gamify even along a journey.
Yeah, and those kinds of services also build loyalty. I think Best Buy was eking out a turnaround with Geek Squad, really focusing on Geek Squad, and then the minute Amazon announced it, it's like everything went crashing down.
Amazon's just the ultimate, right? That's AWS is a service, and it, software as a service, and I think that has bolstered all their financial positions, and really that's what's helping wreak havoc across the retail world today. So anything you can do within your environment to create services that build loyalty, it's a big deal.
Okay, so services, data, and visual search, 3 core investments for the next 5 years. Now, if we go 5 more years ahead, so now we're 10 years ahead, what are the things what are the things that you're seeing evolving that you think are going to become major technology trends? Maybe things people don't need to invest in now but should start watching. Do you want to
I
start?
think the production of clothing is going to change radically. It's a massive industry, and it's very archaic. Ray Kurzweil has already gone on record, so it's not my statement, that by 2025, people will be producing their own clothing in their homes. And yet, that sounds crazy, but if you look at the history of the laser printer from the days when it was, bigger than a house, and now it's the size of it sits on a desk, and it can produce ridiculous amounts of product. You're going to see that kind of evolution in this space. Personalization of food is another big area. Why are we all eating? We ate lunch there, right? But my diet, my needs are very different than yours, and yet we have the same plates. Why aren't we seeing personalized product at the food level where the nutrient count in my food is different than yours, and it's generated on demand? So we're going to see a lot more on-demand production, and specifically in areas where you, the individual, actually differ in your tastes and your whole biorhythm, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, it's not biorhythm, whatever it is. So anyway, that's where I see the changes happening.
Melissa?
I think personalization as well, and I think that comes in many forms. I'm very interested in what's going on with furniture right now and home decor. Just being able to visualize like how a couch will look in your house, being able to choose your own fabric, have it come to you in less than 12 weeks. I think the production timelines for furniture are just insane right now. So I think that's something that is interesting to us as a firm as well, is just how do these more archaic kind of processes speed up, and how do you make them more personal? And then also, I think AI in your house, connection is just beginning in your house, and how does that look in terms of, your lights, your couch, all your furniture just being connected and controlled by one interface, and what does that look like in 10 years? That's something we're thinking about too. Yeah, so I think, and also like, what does a dressing room, in your house look like? We have all this data now about past purchases from the last 20 years. Nothing's really been done with it. You get, recommended searches, on-site searches, or cross-product recommendations, but they're really not that personal because they're just on one website. They're on a J.Crew or an Ann Taylor. But what about all the other places you shop besides, Amazon? And everything you have in your closet? Wouldn't it be great to know, to have products recommended to you based on like your own personal profile rather than just where maybe one place that you shop? So all of those things are on our minds.
I feel like that is the secret sauce for fashion, and a lot of people are trying to crack that code from like a different perspective, but everyone wants to help you complement what you already have. John, 10 years ahead.
It's hard, it's really hard looking out that far. I mean, no one can do it, right? But I think there are trends that are obviously coming, and me, now, cheaper, connected, and anything that's playing into those spaces, me being, it's the personalization that both Pano and Melissa just talked about. And now means printing in the home, making it in the home, or even on-demand services like, you want your dog groomed. You say to Echo or whatever that device is in your home, hey, send me a dog groomer tomorrow at 2 p.m. That will happen. And then so me now, cheaper. The Amazon's driving a lot of this as you have access to all these inventories from everyone at the same time. I think even AI-type applications run by people in the homes will find the best bargain for you. And then finally, connectedness. I still think we're all about connecting to other people. That's why we're all here today. And but that'll be facilitated more and more through technologies that maybe don't exist. Well, I'm sure don't exist today.
I would add one more. I think the rental economy, whether it's a secondary market, it's leased apparel, but we see a lot of movement away from transactions to more usage models. You can see the car is going to go that way. We look at the automobile industry as a great proxy for what's going to happen in the rest of consumer markets. They've been leasing cars for 30 years, and we're going to start seeing leased apparel where you get certified on the used garment. I know that sounds weird, but there's a lot of things that people are wearing today that they don't own, and that's only growing dramatically.
Yeah, like Rent the Runway on steroids.
Yeah, because that's actually owned, and we would argue that it's going to be federated, and you're going to just borrow from peer-to-peer rentals are going to happen.
Oh, decentralized. That's interesting. That's interesting. Melissa, so Forerunner invests in a lot of internet-first companies. We have Catherine sitting here from Draper James, but you have Dollar Shave Club, Warby Parker, Bonobos. Like, what trends are you seeing in these internet-first brands, and what can traditional retailers learn from their execution?
I think experience is one that we really feel separates a lot of our brands out from a lot of other ones out there, and specifically Amazon as well. So it's really about, with this new millennial and Gen Z customer, what are they looking for? How are they connecting differently with brands than past generations have? And, the brands that you just mentioned have done that really successfully. It's not just about something that everyone can get. It's about feeling something for that brand and a connection with the brand itself. I also think these brands really listen to what their customers want. So Warby Parker, Bonobos, Dollar Shave Club, they're not one product brands. They might have kind of sort of started that way or been perceived to have started that way, but they really were platforms that provided the launch pad for really like a lifestyle brand in general for each one of those. So, Dollar Shave Club started with razors, but they're really looking to own the men's bathroom experience. Warby Parker, very similar, started with eyeglasses with their home try-on, but really extended now into eye exams, and they heard from their customers that's what they wanted, and they were really fast to market to provide that for them. And the same with Bonobos, started with pants, but soon saw that their customers wanted golf wear and other products, and were able to extend into that market and give them people exactly what they wanted. And I think that's something that they all really have in common. I think they're all really quick, and they're willing to make mistakes to figure out what works and what doesn't work with their audiences. So I would say that that's something that all of them really have in common.
Awesome. So I'm going to have one more question, and then we're going to try to compress this a little bit just to get us back on schedule. So the next session is on artificial intelligence. And, as we're kind of we're talking about innovation, so we have to touch on artificial intelligence. In your opinion, how will artificial intelligence impact retail now, and in the near term? So, we were 10 years ahead just a minute ago. Now I'm looking at like a 6 to 18 month time frame. How do you think artificial intelligence will play? Pano, do you want to start?
It's just anything that's got a repetitive task, you can now use AI and machine learning to resolve. Customer service questions, store opening, all the questions that you get in these customer service retail experiences, 95% can be answered via AI, and the ones that can't can be routed to customer service personnel. And we've actually demonstrated that. A couple of companies have already demonstrated that. So go for the repetitive tasks, get them off your plate, get them onto a machine.
Anything you want to add, John? This is the final thoughts.
Yeah, customer service, like with Link, product recommendations, both in-store and online, and even driving marketing messages onto in-store displays. That's being driven right now with AI successfully. Mm-hmm. And voice is a huge one. That's all AI. And look at Echo. I mean, that is the proof.
So we think that's a home solution, not a retail solution. It's too noisy in the stores. People talking out loud, I'm looking for a bra. That's just not the kind of thing that you want, or whatever, right? It's just a weird, it's kind of weird. But we also think facial recognition is going to be something you're going to start. You saw the announcement today at Walmart. Customer identity is the biggest problem in retail. No one knows who's walking in the store. You could spend $1 million a year with a brand and they have no idea that you're walking into their store 99 times out of 100. And that's a huge miss right away. So we think that's going to get resolved soon.
Awesome. Well, I'd like everyone join me in giving the panel a round of applause.